kindness is a strength, but they never tell you what happens when the world keeps cutting that kindness open, over and over again. There was a time I believed in people. I believed that loyalty meant something, that love wasn't a battlefield, that trust was sacred. I gave without asking. I stayed when everyone else left. I carried their storms on my shoulders like it was my duty to keep their skies clean. I was the man who picked up the shattered pieces of others, even when my own hands were bleeding. I was the one who stood between their chaos and their collapse, not because I was strong, but because I was kind. I looked into faces that lied and still smiled back. I stayed in rooms where my soul screamed to leave. I swallowed my pain so others could breathe easier, and they mistook that silence for weakness. They mistook my warmth for surrender, my kindness for a leash. But let me tell you something. Kindness is a choice, and every choice can be unmade. The world has a strange way of teaching you its language, not with gentle lessons, but with knives. At first, it's subtle. They take an inch, then a little more. You let it slide because your heart is soft, because you believe they'll see your intentions. But people like that don't see kindness. They consume it. They laugh behind your back and call it jokes. They betray your trust and call it mistakes. They use your loyalty as a weapon against you. And when you break, they act surprised. I watched their faces when I fell silent for the first time. The world got colder, not because I changed, but because I stopped pretending their cruelty didn't hurt. I stopped feeding them my light while they built shadows around me. When a kind man stops smiling, the world should tremble. That's not poetry, that's prophecy. Because when the smile fades, the storm wakes. And there's nothing more dangerous than a soul that's been quiet for too long. They thought they were playing with a lamb, but they were poking at a lion's ribs. They were dancing on a sleeping battlefield. I gave warnings in silence. I spoke in patience, but they were too loud, too blind, too drunk on their own arrogance to hear the war drums echoing beneath my calm. They thought they broke me, but all they did was wake the part of me they should have prayed never rose. There's a stillness before everything burns, a silence thick enough to drown in. That's where I live now. My breaths are slower, my steps are heavier. My heart no longer beats like it used to. Once, it beat for others. Now, it beats like a war drum. Measured, controlled, unforgiving. People think rage comes with screaming. They're wrong. Real rage comes with silence. The kind of silence that cracks the air like a blade against stone. I walk through the same streets, but nothing feels the same. The light is colder. The laughter is thinner. The world is quieter. Not because it changed, but because I did. They saw kindness. They never saw the storm sleeping beneath it. They only saw the man who held the door open, not the one who could burn the building down. They only saw the smile, not the teeth behind it. Kindness was my language, but pain taught me a new tongue. I buried the gentle version of myself under the ashes they left behind, and something else, something colder, rose in its place. A shadow that doesn't beg to be understood. A storm that doesn't warn before it strikes. a king that doesn't kneel. You should have killed me when I was kind, because what's coming now doesn't know mercy. There's a moment, a single silent fracture, where everything inside a man snaps, not with noise, not with drama, but with a soundless shatter that only he can hear. That moment came for me in the quiet hours, when the world had gone still, and the echoes of what they did were louder than their laughter ever was. I didn't scream, I didn't fight, I just sat there, breathing, like a man drowning slowly in air that used to feel safe. Because betrayal doesn't come with bullets, it comes with soft hands and familiar faces. It's always the ones you let closest, the ones you protect, defend, love. You build walls around them not to keep them out, but to keep the world from touching them. And then one day, they're the ones holding the knife. It's not the cut that destroys you, it's the realization that your kindness was never armor. It was a map, showing them exactly where to strike. I gave them my silence, my loyalty, my time. They gave me a lesson carved into bone. Pain doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It sits behind your ribs like a storm that never ends. You walk through crowds with a face that doesn't flinch, but inside, everything is burning. Every laugh you gave them echoes like a joke now. Every promise sounds like a lie replaying in your skull. And your heart, the same one that believed in light, turns into a cold, heavy stone. But you don't tell anyone, because you already know no one's listening. The world doesn't hear silent screams. It only hears when you explode. And by then, they call you the villain. It's always at night, when the mask falls, when there's no noise left to drown the truth. I stared at ceilings that looked like they were closing in. I counted the cracks like they were sins written above me. I clenched my jaw so hard it bled. I whispered my rage into a pillow so no one would hear. People think rage comes from strength. No, rage is born in the quiet corners of lonely rooms, where no one's clapping, no one's watching, and no one's coming to save you. That's where warriors are forged, not in arenas, but in the dark, where it hurts to even breathe. The breaking point isn't loud, it's a whisper that says enough. I remember the night my soul went cold. No tears, no chaos, just clarity. I saw the world for what it was, not how I wished it to be. A stage full of actors wearing loyalty like costumes. And me, I was the fool who thought the play was real. When the mind snaps, it doesn't shatter, it sharpens. Like a blade taken out of fire. I became that blade. Kindness used to be my weapon, but the world showed me how easily they could twist it. Now, silence became my shield, pain became my forge, and trust became something I no longer handed out like spare change. The man who used to forgive easily, he died that night. And in his place stood something they were not ready to meet. I didn't roar, I didn't chase, I didn't beg. I just turned cold. And the world finally felt the weight of what they'd created. I used to believe betrayal was loud. I used to think it came with shouting, or breaking glass, or slammed doors. But betrayal, real betrayal, is quiet. It smiles in your face. It laughs with you at dinner, and then it cuts you when you least expect it. Not because they hate you, but because they never valued you. They call it moving on. They call it mistakes. But what it really is a war declared in silence. I won't say their names. I don't need to, because betrayal doesn't belong to one face. It's written in too many. It's the friend who clapped when I failed, the lover who swore eternity but walked away when the storm came, the family who only stood beside me when it was easy. Betrayal has no single face. It wears the mask of everyone you once trusted. And when it strikes, it doesn't just cut skin, it cuts faith. And once faith bleeds, it never bleeds the same again. They laughed at my softness. They mocked the way I trusted too much. They thought kindness was weakness, because they've never seen kindness after it's been betrayed. They thought the light in me would never go out. But it did. And the moment it did, something else lit up. Not light, fire. A fire born from every knife they pushed into my back, every laugh, every whisper, every moment they thought they won. That fire now lives inside me, and it doesn't forgive. There's a line every man draws, even the kindest of men, a line between mercy and war, between forgiveness and the final silence. They crossed it without even knowing, and I watched, not with tears, not with panic, but with stillness. Because the moment someone crosses that line, you stop bleeding, you start burning. I can still feel that night, the way the air shifted, the way something inside me snapped. I didn't yell, I didn't run after them. I just looked at the mirror and saw a stranger with a fire in his eyes. And that stranger was me. It's strange how pain can be both poison and fuel. It kills something soft in you, but it gives birth to something they can never control. I used to be their safe place. Now I'm the storm they should have feared. You can only set a man on fire so many times before he stops burning and starts blazing. I felt it in my pulse, in my breath, in the way my footsteps got heavier, in the way my eyes stopped searching for light and started creating it out of flames. They thought I'd crumble, but I was learning how to ignite. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just hurt, it awakens. When you've been burned enough, you stop fearing the fire, you become it. And once you become the fire, you stop asking to be understood. You stop waiting to be saved. You stop begging to be seen. You rise, not with mercy, but with vengeance carved into your soul. They thought they were ending a chapter. They were wrong. They were writing the prologue of their storm, because the boy they betrayed died, and the man who rose has fire in his bones and war written in. They thought betrayal broke me. They thought silence meant defeat. But they forgot one truth. Fire doesn't destroy everything it touches. Sometimes it refines. The man I was died in the flames. The man I became was born from them. You see, pain is an architect. It doesn't just ruin, it rebuilds. It sculpts you into something colder, sharper, unbreakable. Every scar you carry, that's not a wound, that's armor. I remember the moment clearly. The moment I realized the version of me they used to know was gone. The kindness that once held everyone together, gone. The warmth that forgave, buried. The softness that smiled, dead and silent. They didn't kill me. They killed the man who wouldn't fight back. The man who thought love could save everyone. And when that man died, something ancient stood up in his place. A version of me that doesn't beg, that doesn't explain, that doesn't chase after broken people trying to fix them. He stands still. He watches. He lets silence speak for him. And when he moves, the ground trembles. Silence used to be my weakness. Now, it's my weapon. They don't know what to do when I don't react. They can't control what they can't read, because silence unnerves them. It holds a mirror to their guilt. They mistake quiet for emptiness. But real silence is full of power. Every word I don't say is a blade pressed against their throat. Let them wonder what I'm thinking. Let them try to guess what I'll do next. Because the man they once understood is gone. And what stands in his place is a mystery wrapped in fire. I no longer announce my pain. I let results do the talking. I let discipline answer every doubt, and I let my transformation echo louder than any revenge ever could. While they laughed, I disappeared. While they mocked, I rebuilt. While they slept, I worked in silence. No audience, no applause, no mercy. The gym became my church. The silence, my prayer. The pain, my baptism. Every drop of sweat was a declaration. Every rep was a resurrection. Every scar, a sermon carved by fire. I trained until the mirror stopped showing weakness. Until the voice in my head stopped whispering doubt. Until I no longer recognized the broken man I once was. They thought I'd vanished, but I was preparing. I was molding myself into something they could never destroy again. When you train in darkness long enough, you stop fearing it. You become it. There's a phase after the pain where nothing hurts anymore. Not because you're numb, but because you've adapted. The flames that used to burn now only harden you. That's when you know transformation is complete. When emotion stops being your chain and becomes your fuel. When fear stops being a voice and becomes silence. When you no longer chase revenge because you've become the consequence. I no longer care to prove them wrong. They can stay blind. I don't need validation from those who couldn't see my worth when I was pure. I'm not trying to get even. I'm building an empire from the ashes. Every move is precise, calculated. Every breath is discipline. Every decision, war made elegant. Fire turned to iron, and iron turned to command. There's a moment when the silence ends. When the storm that's been building inside finally opens its eyes. I felt it. The stillness before the hunt. The heartbeat that echoes like thunder before war. I used to walk among sheep. Quiet, gentle, unassuming. Now, I walk alone. Not because I can't trust anyone, but because no one can walk at my pace anymore. They took my kindness and left me starving. Now I feast on discipline. They took my softness. Now I move like a storm cloaked in calm. You should have killed me when I was kind. Because what came back from that fire isn't the same man. It's something else. Something ancient. Something ruthless. The wolf doesn't apologize for surviving. He doesn't explain why he hunts. He simply looks at the world and takes back what's his. His silence. They thought I was gone, silent, forgotten. But wolves don't vanish. They sharpen their fangs in the dark. And when they return, they don't bark, they bite. I gave the world everything I had, and in return, it buried me. But I learned something in the grave. The dead don't come back soft. They rise colder, sharper, hungrier. I don't live by their rules anymore. The old code died with the old me. No more pleasing, no more explaining, no more shrinking myself to fit inside their comfort. My code is carved in silence and iron now. Earn my trust, or vanish. Speak truth, or be forgotten. Stand firm, or be trampled. The man who used to bend just to keep the peace. He doesn't exist anymore. They thought the storm had passed, but they forgot. Storms don't end. They just change shape. They expected noise. They expected me to beg. They expected me to shout my pain to the world. But wolves don't make announcements. They move through shadows. They study. They wait. They strike. And when they strike, there's no warning, no mercy, no negotiation. While they were talking about me, I was becoming something they could never match. While they mocked, I built. While they laughed, I sharpened. They'll see me again, not as the kind soul they toyed with, but as the storm that erases everything in silence. Betrayal used to feel like a wound. Now, it's just a lesson carved into steel. Every scar I carry is a page in my playbook. Every lie they told, a map of their weakness. Every time they turned away, a step toward my throne. I don't hate them anymore. I thank them, because they were the fire that forged the crown I now wear. If they hadn't broken me, I would have never learned to build from blood and ash. If they hadn't betrayed me, I would have never learned the language of wolves. They gave me pain, and I turned it into power. Look into my eyes now. There's no softness left, no open door, no home for cowards to return to. These eyes don't seek validation. They don't beg for apologies. They look forward, like a king staring at a battlefield he's already claimed. My blood still runs hot, but my mind is ice. That's the most dangerous combination. Rage that's controlled, fire that listens to reason, a storm that obeys a king. I don't explain my rise. I don't ask for permission to ascend. Kings don't knock on doors. They build their own throne. They'll whisper my name like a curse, but they'll feel it like a prophecy. Because everything they did to destroy me became the foundation of what now makes me untouchable. I wear my pain like armor. I carry my scars like banners, and I walk with the kind of silence that makes the loudest men in the room look small. I am not the echo of who I was. I am the consequence of everything they did. And I will rise, not quietly, but like a storm with a crown. There's a moment when silence ends, when patience breaks, when the storm that's been pacing behind the walls of your chest finally roars. And when it roars, the world remembers your name. For too long, I gave them grace. For too long, I gave them chances. But mercy has an expiration date, and mine has bled out. Now I walk like a war. Every breath is a declaration. Every step, a consequence. I didn't send warnings. I didn't send signs. I just returned. And when I returned, I wasn't the man they remembered. I was everything they feared I'd become. Their laughter fell quiet when they saw me, because there's something in the eyes of a man who's been burned and still rose from the ashes. A stillness, a danger, a kind of cold that doesn't forgive. They whispered my name like it was a ghost story, but ghosts don't build empires, kings do. And I was home. I didn't inherit my throne, I built it, piece by piece, scar by scar, betrayal by betrayal. Every blade they pushed into my back became part of the foundation. Every word they used to break me became bricks in my castle. I turned pain into structure, silence into steel, and my past into an empire that will never bow again. I don't sit on a golden chair. I sit on a throne of ashes. And that's why it can never be taken from me, because no one can destroy what's already been burned. I don't owe anyone explanations. I don't owe them kindness. I don't owe them softness for the cruelty they poured into me. They had their chance. They had my loyalty. They had the gentle version of me, and they shattered it like it meant nothing. Now I stand here with no mercy in my chest and no apologies on my tongue. You can beg a kind man for forgiveness, but the man standing here isn't kind anymore. He's forged from the bones of mercy they buried. Revenge isn't a plan. Revenge isn't a speech. Revenge is becoming. I don't chase them. I don't need to, because the man I've become is everything they'll never be able to face. I am not the villain they whisper about. I'm the consequence they prayed would never arrive. They tried to bury me, but I grew roots in the soil they left me in. They tried to burn me, but I became the flame. They tried to break me, but I became the hammer. I don't want revenge. I am revenge. Listen to me. To every soul that ever thought breaking someone kind was power, you don't understand the fire you're playing with. The quiet ones don't stay quiet forever. The soft ones don't stay soft. The kind ones are the most dangerous of all, because when they change, they don't come back to talk. They come back to conquer. I stand here not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as a storm wearing a crown. My silence is my sword. My pain is my throne. My scars are my kingdom. They will remember this name, not because I begged, but because I built, because I rose, because I burned everything that tried to bury me. You should have killed me when I was kind, because what's standing here now is not a man you can hurt. It's the fire that ends your war. There comes a point when the storm stops raging, when the fire burns everything it needs to, and all that's left is silence. Not the silence of defeat, not the silence of peace, but the silence of a kingdom rebuilt from ashes. I don't need to roar anymore. The fire already spoke for me. The earth already remembers my footsteps, and the air itself has learned to whisper my name. This is the calm after the war, not the calm of surrender, the calm of a man who won. They'll say I changed. They'll call me heartless, ruthless, cold. They'll point at my crown and call it ego, but they'll never speak of what they did. They'll never speak of the knives they made me. Every scar on my body was forged by their hands. every ounce of fire in my soul, a gift of their cruelty. Every step I take now echoes with the sound of their betrayal turning into my strength. They don't get to call me the villain after building the throne I now sit on. This crown wasn't given to me. It wasn't inherited. It wasn't bought. It was carved from pain, forged in fire, polished by silence. And when you wear a crown like that, you don't ask for validation. You don't beg to be understood. You don't kneel. This crown isn't gold. It's made of every night I survived alone, every blade I pulled from my back, every tear I buried in the dark. They can keep their comfort. I'll keep my crown. If you're listening to this and your heart is bleeding, if you've been betrayed, broken, left in silence, hear me. You are not weak. You are not a victim. You are a storm waiting to rise. They broke you because they feared what you could become. They tried to bury your light because they saw the fire beneath it. But the wolf they created in you will be the one they can never control. Don't explain your pain. Build from it. Don't beg to be understood. Let your silence crown you. Don't chase revenge. Become the consequence. I am no longer the man they knew. I am the silence they fear. The fire they lit. The throne they built without knowing it. This is the legacy of wolves. We don't howl for approval. We don't beg for belonging. We stand alone on the edge of the world and make it kneel. Kindness was my language. Pain became my teacher. And power became my voice. This is not a fairy tale. This is not a comeback story. This is a warning. I gave them light. They gave me darkness. I gave them love. They gave me war. And from that war, I built a kingdom. So now, when they whisper my name, they will remember not the man who smiled, but the storm they awakened. You should have killed me when I was kind, because mercy doesn't live here anymore. And with that, the wolf walks away, not defeated, crowned.